Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. I told you they can't stop Kari Lake. Let's go, friends. This is exactly what we want to see. All these neocon hacks telling us, oh, Kari Lake is not electable, her electability. Arizona's a neocon state, it's John McCain's state. Meghan McCain, genius political analyst, kept writing on Twitter how Kari Lake could never win in Arizona. And not only did she win every single county in the Republican primary, despite going against the billionaire establishment in Arizona and the Republican establishment in Washington, not only did she clean sweep that election, but now she's apparently secured a significant lead against her Democrat opponent in Katie Hobbs. The most recent Trafalgar group shows her up significantly, and there's still 2 months to go. As Republican and independent votes continue to coalesce behind Kari Lake, it turns out very simply that the neocons were once again totally wrong, and that the Trump badge, being a Trump-endorsed candidate, being an election integrity candidate, being a strong America First patriot candidate, isn't a handicap when it comes to your chances of getting elected. It's a benefit, as the state of Arizona is apparently, we don't know just yet, there's still some time to go, but apparently Arizona is becoming an ultra MAGA stronghold. After this one, folks, if this one plays out, I don't ever want to hear anybody mention the concept of electability. When it comes to America First candidates, I mean, Donald Trump essentially put an end to that argument back in 2016, and I don't ever want to see it resurface. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on here as Kari Lake takes the lead. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so after months and months of Democrats leading in the polls in the state of Arizona, the closer and closer we get to the election, the more and more it seems as though the people of Arizona are on track to elect a full Republican ticket. Kari Lake's been losing, she's unelectable, they say. Fast forward just a little bit, just a couple months, and Kari Lake takes the lead over her Democrat opponent Katie Hobbs with 50% of the vote, and Katie Hobbs trailing at 45.6 with 4.4% undecided. Folks, this is a near insurmountable lead. Kari Lake is holding 50% of the vote already. It means she basically can't lose, and the trend is very clear. Kari Lake continues to gain in all polls, not just the Trafalgar Group data, and with 4.4% undecided and undecided splitting for Kari Lake, as we've been seeing, she continues to gain with undecideds as the undecided portion continues to shrink. It's very likely that Kari Lake is going to finish this election with more than 50% of the vote, possibly beating Katie Hobbs by anywhere from 4 to maybe 7 percentage points. Not just a slim marginal victory in a neocon swing state like Arizona, but a commanding ultra MAGA victory, potentially leading the great state of Arizona in the same direction as Florida under Governor Ron DeSantis. And of course, if Kari Lake takes over and she has the same kind of track record and policy success as Ron DeSantis, the state of Arizona will continue to get more and more red, increasingly red, as time goes by. Another huge speed bump in the Democrats' way, as they've been hoping to make gains in the Sun Belt and in border states. The state of Georgia is trending away from the Democrats. Texas remains as ruby red as you might expect, despite Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's claim that Texas is gonna go blue within the next couple election cycles. And so it seems from Florida all the way to Arizona, maybe omitting New Mexico, it's not only gonna be red, but it's gonna be that strong ruby red color that you love to see on an election map. And I'm getting ready for it. I mean, I don't want to delude myself as if it's happening 100%, but I'm one of you guys that predicted Donald Trump's victory back in 2016. I know a lot of you guys were seeing the exact same signs. People told me I was crazy. There's no way Donald Trump could beat Hillary Clinton. He decimated her. It wasn't even close. Well, I'm honestly seeing flashbacks. I'm seeing the same thing in the 2022 midterms, regardless of what the majority of polls are telling us. And it seems as though I'm not the only one, as now even CNN is basically reporting on the same thing, covering that New York Times article that we covered maybe a week or so ago.
Could the pollsters get an election embarrassingly wrong again? That's what the New York Times chief political analyst Nate Cohn is wondering in a piece called "Yes, the Polling Warning Signs Are Flashing Again." Cohn cautions that there's a strong likelihood that the polls we're seeing for the midterms are likely inaccurate. A postmortem on the 2020 presidential election by the American Association for Public Opinion Research found that national polling had the worst magnitude of error in 40 years. And the state polls were the worst in at least 2 decades, and they couldn't provide any definitive reason as to why. And it was worse than 2016 when pollsters systematically underestimated Donald Trump's strength against Hillary Clinton. Nate Cohn drilled down on the recent polling showing that Democrats are making gains in the Senate and found that the candidates are, quote, outrunning expectations in the same places where the polls overestimated Mr. Biden in 2020 and Mrs. Clinton in 2016. Cohn further notes that if this failure occurs, it will be because most pollsters haven't made significant changes to their methodology since the last cycle. Could it be that this November, in contests where research has Democrats feeling confident, there will be many so-called unforeseen upsets?
The exact districts, the exact states that pollsters got wrong in 2016 and 2020, they're likely to get wrong again. Except this time it might even be worse, because not only is there a possibility that Kari Lake wins, but there's a possibility that Blake Masters also wins. We might see an even bigger upset. Blake Masters has been trailing Democrat incumbent Mark Kelly by up to 10 points, possibly even higher into the double digits. I don't remember the exact numbers, but he's been trailing Mark Kelly by a significant margin. Now, all of a sudden, he's on Mark Kelly's tail within the margin of error. Mark Kelly at 46.6% and Blake Masters at 45.4%. And the important thing here is that Mark Kelly is not advancing his lead. Blake Masters is. It seems like Democrat candidates in some of the most important races have ceilings of support, but Republicans continue to gain 5.3% undecided voters. It's possible that a significant portion of those undecided voters split in favor of Blake Masters and he takes the victory. It's possible that there's a whole lot of people within the polling data that either just aren't being polled or people who are not saying who they want to support because they're scared to admit that they're Republicans. The same factor we saw in the 2016 election. And speaking of that ceiling, the most recent poll that we have from Pennsylvania shows John Fetterman at 47.7%, Mehmet Oz trailing him at 45.9%, again within the margin of error, and we're seeing John Fetterman have that ceiling that he just can't get over. And in fact, his support ceiling even seems to be coming down. And of course, in the Pennsylvania gubernatorial election between Josh Shapiro and Doug Mastriano, it's getting incredibly tight at a +2 lead for the Democrat candidate in Josh Shapiro. I don't know if a +2 lead, considering how inaccurate polling data is enough to take this one home for the Democrats. I don't think I'm crazy to doubt it, especially when you look at generic congressional ballot data from Trafalgar showing such a wide lead for the Republicans. And especially when you look at the candidates. I'm going to keep going back to Wisconsin. They're telling us that Mandela Barnes is beating Ron Johnson. This is Mandela Barnes.
It's frustration. It's frustration. People, you can't tell people how to be frustrated.
I think that in times like these, in times of crisis, that protest is necessary. I want people to recognize, why we are in that place, why people may get disruptive during protests. You see, when things get to the level that they've gotten to, you gotta think about what brought it to that point. This is a reckoning because people have failed to address those underlying issues.
More than damage, destruction, and rebellion, it is frustration.
A Democrat in the state of Wisconsin who justified and defended violent riots and arson in the summer of 2020 that decimated black communities. This guy is gonna win. Folks, there's 2 months of campaigning and attack ads to go after these clearly vulnerable Democrat candidates. And there is ammunition, folks. These Democrat candidates in some of the most important races are weak. They're vulnerable. Mandela Barnes justifying riots will basically disqualify him with moderate and independent voters in the state of Wisconsin. At least if you ask me, I think Ron Johnson takes this one easily. You have Katie Hobbs fighting Kari Lake. Katie Hobbs is anti-school choice, while she herself attended a fancy prestigious private school. Rules for thee, but not for me. She refuses to debate and is looking absolutely terrible as she cowers away from the Kari Lake challenge. She has a history of racial discrimination in her offices during her leadership positions. Mark Kelly has almost no charisma. He's a total Biden shill, and he's been a complete coward on the border. He's done absolutely nothing when it comes to fighting for sane border policy until right before the election starts, and even then it's just campaign rhetoric. The guy is a phony. John Fetterman in Pennsylvania is a total communist who wants to release 1/3 of the prison population. These Democrats are out of their minds. They're weak candidates. They have skeletons in their closet. It's going to be exploited over the next 2 months, and we're going to see Republicans continue to make gains gains here. And if red September and red October play out the way that I think they are, and the stock market and the economy and economic indicators continue to crash, Democrats are done. We're gonna go back to seeing that +6, +7, +8 Republican lead in generic congressional ballot data. And honestly, even without that Republican resurgence ahead of Election Day in November, I think even with the current lead that we're seeing right now, Republicans are poised to take over the House and take a majority in the Senate. And I firmly believe that and am standing by that prediction. But that, of course, is just one man's opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna get back to work. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.